Have you ever been so sure you were right only to be proven spectacularly wrong? It's embarrassing, right? Now, imagine that happening not at a dinner party, but in a court of law, with your freedom, reputation, or millions of dollars on the line. Today, we're rediving into some jaw-dropping legal cases where overconfidence didn't just lead to a loss. It led to an absolute. Face planting. I-wish-the-ground-would-swallow-me-hold defeat. These stories are a masterclass in why a little humility can be your best legal strategy. Let's start with the infamous case of the singing lawyer. A man was accused of creating a disturbance by singing loudly and off-key in his apartment. Simple enough, right? He decided to represent himself, convinced the judge would see the absurdity of the charge. During the trial, he was so certain of his innocence and his, let's say, unique vocal talent that he offered the judge a live demonstration. He belted out a song right there in the courtroom. The result? The judge, after wincing through the performance, found him guilty on the spot. He literally sang his way into a conviction. The lesson here: sometimes your greatest strength, or what you think is your strength, is actually your biggest liability. Next up, a high-stakes corporate battle. A tech startup sued a massive corporation for patent infringement. The startup CEO was a brilliant inventor, but he was also incredibly arrogant. He believed his patent was so ironclad and his invention so revolutionary that no lawyer could possibly lose the case. He bullied his own legal team, ignored their advice to settle, and insisted on taking the stand himself. He thought he could charm the jury and outsmart the opposing counsel. But on the stand, under cross-examination, his complex explanations sounded condescending. The opposing lawyer used the CEO's own ego against him, painting him as a greedy bully trying to extort money. The jury sided with the big corporation. The startup not only lost, but went bankrupt from the legal fees. The CEO's overconfidence cost him his entire company. Now let's talk about a custody battle that took a bizarre turn. A father was fighting for more time with his children, felt he was the superior parent, and decided to prove it by documenting every single tiny flaw of his ex-wife. He brought in binders full of evidence, photos of a slightly messy kitchen, a note about her being 5 minutes late for a pickup, a recording of the kids saying they were bored. He presented this mountain of trivial complaints to the judge, expecting her to be impressed by his meticulous attention to detail. Instead, the judge was appalled. She saw him not as a concerned father, but as a controlling and obsessive individual focused on punishing his ex-wife rather than co-parenting. His perfect case completely backfired. The judge ended up reducing his visitation time, warning him that his behavior was harmful to the children. His attempt to look like the perfect parent made him look like the exact opposite. Here's another one, this time involving a small claims court classic, a dispute over a fence. A homeowner sued his neighbor, claiming the neighbor's new fence was built 2 feet onto his property. He was so sure he was right that he refused to hire a professional surveyor. Why waste the money, he thought, when he had a tape measure and a good eye. He marched into court with his own hand-drawn maps and photos where he'd literally drawn a line in the dirt with his foot. The neighbor, however, came prepared. She had hired a licensed surveyor who presented a professionally certified report, complete with official maps and GPS coordinates, proving the fence was perfectly placed. The judge took one look at the professional survey and then at the plaintiff's crayon-like drawing. Case dismissed. The overconfident homeowner not only lost but had to pay his own court costs and looked utterly foolish. Let's not forget the criminals who get a little too cocky. It was a case of a burglar who was so proud of his heists that he could unresist bragging. After a series of unsolved break-ins, he went to a bar and started telling a stranger all about his work, how he bypassed alarm systems, which houses he hit, and the valuable items he took. He was so caught up in his own cleverness that he didn't realize the stranger was an off-duty police detective. The detective just listened, nodded along, and bought him another drink. The next day, police showed up at the burglar's door with a warrant. Having recovered the stolen goods based on the very specific details he'd provided, he literally talked his way into a prison cell. His ego wrote the confession for him. Another fascinating example comes from a defamation lawsuit. A controversial public figure sued a newspaper for an article they wrote about him. He was known for his aggressive style and believed he could crush the newspaper in court, demanded a jury trial, certain that the public would be on his side. But his lawyers warned him about something called the discovery process, where both sides have to share evidence. The newspaper's lawyers used this to dig into every aspect of his life, uncovered embarrassing emails, questionable business deals, and testimony from former colleagues that painted an even worse picture of him than the original article did. When the trial began, the newspaper presented all this new, damaging information. The jury not only found that the newspaper had undefamed him, but likely concluded that the original article was actually too kind. He had initiated a lawsuit to clear his name, but his own overconfidence ended up destroying it completely. So what's the common thread in all these stories? It's the Dunning-Kruger effect in action, where people with low ability at a task overestimate their ability. In the high-stakes world of the courtroom, thinking you know better than the experts or lawyers. The surveyors, the judges is a recipe for disaster. Confidence is great, but it needs to be backed by competence and a healthy dose of reality. These individuals weren't just wrong. They were so confident in their wrongness that they shut out any advice that could have saved them. They charged headfirst into a wall, absolutely convinced it was an open door. These tales serve as a powerful warning. Whether it's in a courtroom or in everyday life, a little bit of self-doubt can be a good thing. It makes you double-check your facts, listen to advice, and consider that maybe, just maybe, you don't know everything. Because the moment you become absolutely certain you can't lose is often the exact moment you've set yourself up for the most spectacular fall. What do you think? Have you ever seen someone's overconfidence lead to a total disaster? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed these cautionary tales, do not forget to like this video and subscribe for more deep dives into the fascinating world of law and human psychology. Thanks for watching.